Hello everyone. I've been working hard to get my 1966 Ford Mustang ready to pass the state inspection so I can drive it on the road sometime soon. Check out the other videos I've posted in this series for more. It's time to check the condition of the rear brakes and change the differential oil while I'm in there.
Nice.
As we'll see, I'm about to make a nasty discovery.
It's a little wavy in there. No big deal.
I'll run them. On drum brakes, the rear brake shoe will normally have the most wear. It looks like the front shoe has more wear than the back shoe, which is unexpected. These are riveted liners and there's plenty of depth left in the rivet holes to say these have plenty of life left. And they should pass inspection with no problems.
So I need to see what happens over here when I pull the parking brake lever. That's pretty much all the way out. You see the pads move? That lever certainly did pull. And we can see up here that that brake shoe, I'm calling them pads, they're shoes. That brake shoe pulled back a little bit when the brake lever moved it, as it should. There's also another problem here. This little cable here, this is a brake adjuster cable, is broken. It's gone. So that's probably why the handbrake isn't working, because as the pads wore, the brakes didn't self-adjust, so everything is loose back here. So I probably just need to adjust this. We'll see how that goes. There's what's left of that broken cable. There's a little bit of moisture down here, a little bit of oil I can see underneath the rear wheel bearing, underneath the wheel axle bearing. I'm going to end up doing a seal there, probably to replace the bearings, maybe on both sides. You can kind of see in here, there's the star adjuster, and I'm going to try to grab that and turn it with a pair of channel locks. I think it's probably frozen. No, it's not. That's fantastic. So I should easily be able to, it's nice and loose, I can turn it by hand. So I should easily be able to adjust these brakes so that the handbrake works. And if that's the case, that's all I'm going to do on here for now. Eventually this will all be replaced, it'll all be new. It'll all get the same treatment that the Ford Ranger did that I just worked on. Check out those videos for the brake jobs I did on the Ranger. But right now, I'm doing a triage on this car. I'm doing the things that it absolutely needs most to get it on the road and have it pass inspection. So the wheel cylinder isn't showing any sign of leakage. Not really. There's nothing dripping. You can kind of peel the seals back here. Ooh, that side's a little wet. Alright, there's a little leakage on that one. So unfortunately, I'm going to replace it. I might as well just order all 4 of them. So what do we have here? It's a 10-inch drum. Now this one's not just coming off. Might need to do a little hammering. That looks a little better than the other side, not bad at all. Well, look in here. This is all wet. There's gear oil leaking out, like a lot of it. Everything down here is wet.
There's a buildup of greasy crud down there on top of the inside of the brake shoes.
So this looks like I'm going to have to do the seals on this end, on both sides actually. I guess most likely that'll include the axle bearings. Darn it. That's got to get done probably before it's inspected, because axle grease on the brake drum is not a good thing. This is a 9/16 socket. It's almost there. This is the only slide hammer I have. So I made this for it years ago. It's a bolt with a nut that's welded to the end, and I ground it down a little. Fits on the end of the slide hammer like this. Now we'll see if this works.
We can see it kind of working. I've always been able to make this work in the past.
Seems to be coming. Now I'm going to try a little knocker loose back there. See if that helps. Yeah, it's coming a little bit at a time. Pulled out more than a 1/4 inch. I'd say maybe 3/8 right now.
I actually did a lot more of this than I showed here. It's time to admit this thing kicked my butt, and I need a real slide hammer.
There's no replacement for the right tool. I think the other slide hammer would have worked on this side.
The axles need a good cleaning. Then I actually replaced the axle bearings before reinstalling them. Those details will be in a future video. Being that there isn't a drain plug, I have to drop the carrier to drain the gear oil. That starts with removing the drive shaft U-joint from the drive yoke. The transmission keeps the drive shaft from rotating while you're working on it. Put it out and into gear to adjust its position. After removing all 10 nuts, I screwed one into the top to make sure the carrier doesn't get away from me while I pry it out of the housing. The oil's beginning to drip out. There's a very large pan under it.
There's a broken tooth right there. I think the camera should be able to see it. And there's another one right there.
I was planning to change the rear end, but not until after changing the transmission and spicing the engine up first. But this situation is forcing my hand. I don't want to put this damaged gear set back in, and I don't want to drop it out a second time to replace it later. So I'm going for it now. I ordered a complete third member assembly from Quick Performance, and it'll be installed in a future video.
Originally I wasn't going to do much with the brakes here, but since I had to pull the axles to pull the carrier, I'm going to do a little bit better job here. I kind of have to. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this backing plate the rest of the way. I can disassemble the brakes and clean the backer up and paint it. I'm going to go a little farther with it than I was originally planning. Okay, so a little bit of knocker loose on that flare fitting because I'm getting rid of that wheel cylinder, and I need to have this free anyway so I can pull the whole backer. It appears to be a 3/8 flare nut fitting here. Let's see. Does have some crud built up on it. Alright, let me see if I can just shock it loose a little bit with a weird. Oh, that darn thing is getting rounded. As I look at it, I think this is actually the wrong part. This appears to be a front wheel cylinder, not rear. This isn't looking good. Alright, I'm going to try to remove the brake bleeder first because it's sticking out back there. It's kind of in the way, making it more difficult to work on the tube on the brake line. Oh yeah, it's turning somewhat. I got it to turn, so now I just need to work it back and forth a bit so it'll come out smoothly. Okay, it's out. See if I can get it with a vice grip. I sure hope so. Ah, yes. It appears that the brake line is frozen inside the fitting. So I got the fitting to move in the wheel cylinder, but if I turn it, the line isn't turning inside the fitting. So this can be, well, I might end up replacing this line, obviously, because the only way to get this out is to twist the line. Bummer. Okay. No, it doesn't feel like it's turning, but I don't really see the line twisting either, so. Oh yeah, it's twisting. The line's collapsing. I guess it's just as well that all this stuff is falling apart now rather than having to do it later. Might as well do it now. So instead of trying to wrench and twist that brake line in order to get the fitting unscrewed, I'm going to put this cutter that's here deep in the vice grip jaw on that line and see if I can just separate it. And that's it. Look, the steel line is cut. So I might as well go ahead and disassemble all the brakes here, and then I can more easily remove the backing plate. Now let's see what I can do here. Bang! Went flying. Open that hook up a little bit so I can get this in there. There's that eye from that broken adjuster cable. These brake parts are in better condition than the parts I found in the '86 Ranger. I have a new brake parts kit, so these rusty old parts are going to be replaced. That's interesting. That wasn't in the kit, I think. And look at that. There's brake fluid leaking out of that wheel cylinder. Oh yeah. It's all wet in there. This is why I'm replacing them. I'll just clean these up a little bit with a wire wheel and put them back in. These shoes are still good. You've got lots of life left in them.
There's a crimped on collar around the parking brake cable that has 3 metal tangs that stick out on its side to retain the cable inside the hole in the backer plate. I'm trying to squeeze the tangs flat so the cable's retaining collar can slip out of its mounting hole.
So these fingers, they're kind of like springs. They spread out when you pop this end of the brake cable, parking brake cable, through the hole, and that's what holds them in. They're kind of a one-way action. I'm just trying to collapse these fingers enough so they'll fit back through the hole.
The goal is to free the backer plate so I can wire, wheel, and paint it. You would need to do this if you were replacing the brake cable too.
There it is, it worked. And that's where I cut that brake line off, because it wouldn't rotate, the fitting wouldn't rotate around it. And I had to use a vice grip to loosen that fitting anyway, so it needed to be replaced. Now that whole length of brake line, which is less than 18 inches, needs to be replaced. So I went ahead and assembled these this back brakes on the driver's side. I went a lot farther than I ever planned on going. I wire wheeled and put rust reformer and paint on the backing plate. Got a new wheel cylinder, new brake hardware all around. And I went ahead and hung this one up without recording it. So I'm going to assemble the other side on the workbench, and you can see how the parts go together. I even went ahead and started to assemble this side, but you can see here that there's a hole back here in the backing plate. That's where the emergency brake cable comes through. So I did that side first. So the first thing I did was install this new wheel cylinder, and that just slips into its hole, and there's 2 bolts that hold it. I tighten those down. I put never sees on those, and never sees on the brake bleeder so it won't get stuck. Then I put never sees on these brake shoe pads here. These are just formed in stamping of the backer plate, and the brake shoes sit up against those. They actually ride up against those, and like so. So I put never sees on them because after a while, if they're bare metal against bare metal, every time you hear the brakes, every time you hit the brakes, you'll hear them squeak. Then I started to assemble this. I assembled this side, the brake shoe on the side that has the brake cable, and then the retaining pin that holds it in, and the spring and the retainer, the spring retainer cap locks that in, and I'll show you on the other side how that works. Then the wheel cylinders have these little plunger gizmos. I put one in this side, and it goes between the piston in the wheel cylinder and a slot in the brake shoe, and I'll show you that on the other side when I assemble it. Then the first part of the self-adjuster goes up here. It's this cable. And then you put this spring on there, that's a return spring for this piston. Okay, so now that we're almost all caught up to speed, let's see, I'll put that out of the way there. The next thing we're going to do is insert this plunger into the wheel cylinder, and that just gets poked into that seal there as far as it goes until it hits the piston in there, which that seems to be it. And then this brake bar goes across from one shoe to the other, and it's got a spring on it on this side. It fits a slot. That spring fits inside the slot in the brake shoe here. You can see that there. Then the other brake shoe, and these are the original brake shoes that were in the car. I haven't replaced them because they've got a lot of life left in them. So this lever was already installed, but everything here was rusty, and I just wire wheeled it all. They actually look quite good. So anyway, I'll set this down in here, and you can see here that this bar is between this lever, it's the emergency brake lever, and this back shoe. So when you pull the brake, it pushes back on that shoe, and this point up here pushes forward on that shoe as the lever moves out. But now we want to make sure that this doesn't fall out of here. So we'll take that retaining pin, alignment pin, whatever you want to call it, and there's a hole in the backing plate, and it comes up through that hole. There's only one way it'll fit. Sticks up through the shoe there. There's the retaining spring, and the spring retainer goes on top of that. Then there's a special brake tool for those spring retainers. You can do it with a pair of pliers, but these make it easier. Just stick it in there and give it a quarter twist, and it's held in there. Now, this piston has a spring inside of it, so I want to stop that from keep pushing it out. So there's a return spring on the top, and this is part of the brake adjuster. You put that up here. This cable will wrap around that. And then the other return spring, this is the blue spring. The first one was yellow, this one's blue. And that's where these tools come into play. You use this onto this pin here. Go ahead, and it's easier when everything's bolted in place on the car because the backing place won't move on you. Oops, almost had it. If I can get it without this darn backing plate moving. There it is. And I'll just squeeze those two spring hooks together, the yellow one and the blue one. Just squeeze them together a little bit so they don't try to come off that pin. Okay, next. And this would normally all be done on the car because this will already be bolted to the car. The backer will already be bolted to the car. I'm just showing you here because you can see it easier without the axle in front. So here's the the brake adjuster. It's got an adjusting star on there that you use with the brake adjuster lever. And this side just rotates. But anyway, the star aligns with this slot in the back of the backing plate, And you put it in here like so. Push that together and that's it, it's in. And I will crank that all the way in. So when I go to put the drum on, there's no interference from the brake shoes. They're in as far as they can go. Now, this goes here. This is actually stamped with an R for the right side. The first one I did was the left side. And there's a return spring here that goes into this bigger hole in the shoe right here. And this adjusting cable here, just move that a little bit, like so. Hooks into that, and that hooks in there like that. So now for the fun part, is you've got to get that spring into the same slot with this hook from the adjuster cable, self-adjust cable. So I think I can do it like this. There it is. And there it is. And this is how these old Ford drum brakes go together. So believe it or not, this emergency brake cable is not frozen. I can slide it in and out, and it was working. All right. So now what I need to do, the first part of reinstalling the backer plate, so now that I want to reinstall the backer plate, I need to get that cable through this hole in the back of the backer plate. And it's got this metal collar around it up here with 3 tangs that stick out. It's a spring clip. So once that's in the hole far enough, those tangs will spring out and lock it in. Now, it's not new, so they're a little bit rusty. But all I'm doing is pushing it in there and making sure they lock in. Oh. Yeah, it's locked in. I can't get it to come out. All right. And there is a gasket on the end of the axle here. So the gasket's on here, and then this goes over the gasket. Those bolts need to be held from the back so they don't push back. And since I don't have the axle to bolt onto it right away, I can't bolt it on right away, I'll put a couple nuts on here just to hold everything in place. Let's see, I want to hold this one here because I think that brake cable has a tendency to push out on this. So I just want to make sure this doesn't push off the bolt there. And I'll put one up here, kitty corner to it. Just by hand. This one's not smooth enough to go by hand. 9/16. Just a little more. There. Just to keep the backer plate from sliding out too far. Now I obviously had to remove all the brake components from this side again in order to install this. I have to do that because that brake shoe needs to hook into this. But so I'll start by putting this bar in there. If you remember that, I just showed you. It sits in there like that. So in order to get this hooked into the cable, this spring on the outside of the cable itself pushes back. You need to push it back just enough to slide this fork around it. You probably won't be able to see, oh, maybe if I do it this way here. See that? I slid it up in there and then all the way around like this. Now it's locked in there. Come up like this. This bar goes across here. This plunger goes in there. I drop the bar. Sometimes you need 3 hands to assemble these things. That goes there. And spring back on that bar right there. And there's a notch in this emergency brake arm here that the bar fits into. You've got to align that up and the plunger at the same time. There. Now that's not going anywhere, but it needs to be retained. So I'm going to put this return spring on the top here to help hold everything together so I can get that retainer in. There it is. This should have been swung down under that spring.
Through the magic of editing, the orientation of that adjuster cable eye has been corrected.
There it is. Okay, still waiting on the axle.
Meanwhile, I can replace the rear brake hose, or so I thought. This starts with removing the axle housing vent, which is a hollow bolt that holds the brake hose to the axle housing.
It's a 14 millimeter, 1/2-inch drive, 6-point. Give it some more knocker loose. Let it soak in a bit. This is the vent that vents out pressure from the inside the axle housing, but it also holds this rear brake line down, brake hose, which I have to replace. So I need to remove the vent. And judging from the condition of that hose, it's well overdue for being replaced. I'll have to see what I should replace that with. Maybe just a piece of fuel line. Yeah, that's 9/16, but that actually fits a lot looser than the 14 millimeter. I think I'm going to use the 14 millimeter because it's better. Alright, back to the 14. Okay, let's see if this thing's ready to unscrew yet. Oh yeah. And there's that brake line. Not bad. Fortunately, it looks like this brake line here, the steel brake line that goes from the front all the way back to here, has been replaced. And it broke free easily, and the fitting's rotating around the tube very easily, so that makes it easy. And there it is. That thing's rusted right into the bracket. But that got it. I put a coat of Never Sees on this end here so it won't get stuck in there again. Boy, I don't like that. This hose is an inch shorter than the original. And it's pressing right up against the exhaust pipe. I'm going to have to do something about that. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to use it. If anything, I want a hose that's a little longer, not one that's a little shorter. Especially since this has 2-inch lowering blocks on it. This car has 2-inch lowering blocks. That makes it even more difficult. So I'll show you what I'm doing to replace this old brake hose. This is the rear brake hose. First thing I did was hacksaw it off this fitting. The problem is this is only it's only like 15 inches long, and it has been rubbing on the exhaust pipe. I don't want the new one doing that, so I need a longer hose. Part of that is because it has a dual exhaust system in it that isn't stock, and it has lowering blocks in the rear springs. It's lowered 2 inches from what those springs would have it set to. The replacement part I got for this one, for the correct part number, was 1 inch shorter than this, or half an inch shorter than this. So that only exacerbated the problems. So what I'm doing is I cut off that hose. You can see where it was right here. This is the mounting block that screws onto the top of the rear axle. It actually has a curved section in here, rounded, so that that can sit on the round top of the axle. And this is the vent tube that holds it down. The vent tube, it's got this threaded end that holds it to the top of the axle. And it is held, well, if that's the front of the car, it's held in this orientation. So that hose comes out here and goes up to where it joins the brake line. But the hose is just not long enough to not hit the exhaust pipe. So what I'm doing is, this one is 15 inches, less than 15 inches long. This one here, which is actually for an 86 Ford Ranger, 4-wheel drive like I have, I just replaced it on my Ranger. So I knew this part might be a good substitute. It has the same size fitting there, the same size fittings here. It's for 5/16 brake line tube and 3/8 flare fittings. But this one is 20 inches long, so it's a good 5 inches longer than this. And it looks like it will get up and around that exhaust pipe and totally clear it, no problem. The other thing is that the 66 Mustang has 10-inch brake drums, and the 86 Ford Ranger has 10-inch brake drums. But they're similar, and if you look inside the brake drum configuration, it looks identical. Anyway, so what I'm planning to do then, where this is what screws into the top of the axle housing. I'm going to enlarge this hole so that fits here, and then this thing here will come in handy to sit up against that flat part where the hose used to be. I'm going to have to straighten it out a little bit. Bolt through here and through there. And because this is hugging that flat side, it's going to keep it from rotating. And then that puts these two brake line outlets here at 45-degree angle. So the one side will come in here, the other side will come in here, and that's going to work perfectly. Then this goes up. And another problem I have to correct here is that the original is all rounded except for one flat side. This has one rounded side and the rest are pointed. So I'm going to have to grind them down so that I have one flat side in the correct location. So that's what I'm up to here. So I mounted it up with this. It was sitting on top of the axle housing. Right, here's the front of the car this way. So it was sitting on top of the axle housing this way. The brake line ports are here and here. This comes up over almost to the top of the where it hits the bottom of the body and goes into the mounting bracket. And the mounting bracket has one flat side and the rest is rounded. So I held this in place. And I marked it through the hole that's in the bracket. So I know that this is the side that needs to stay flat. So the rest of these corners need to be rounded off in order for this to fit into that hole. And on the side here, I marked it black so that I know this side doesn't get ground down. The rest does get rounded. Actually, this right here is already rounded, but then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 more. No, there's 1, 2, 3 more points that I need to grind off. I'll need to remove this lock ring that's on there so I can just run this around the grinding wheel. And I'm going to go do that now. So I ground that down so it would fit the same space that this fit. I actually went a little overboard. I made it slightly smaller. But it fits in there fine. I already tested it, so I'll put this lock ring back on it, snap ring, whatever you want to call it. C-clip. I'll probably do that here. There it is. So now I can go ahead and install all this. So I'm going to put a little bit of this Permatex gear oil gasket maker, specialized formula. This is for gearboxes. And it's good to withstand gear oil. So I'm going to coat the bottom here so that this is sealed. I guess the top as well. But this is what Permatex recommends for differentials and transmissions. And so there it is, installed on top of the axle. So there it is. And you can see that hose goes up there. Keeps a respectable distance away from the exhaust pipe. Comes down over here. And over to here. Now I've just got to put these two brake lines into it. Oops. One here and one over here. Okay, and then there it is. The brake lines are hooked up. Two brand new brake lines going to two brand new wheel cylinders. There's that brake hose. Goes up there. Goes over to there. And maintains a decent distance, a decent spacing from the exhaust pipe. Okay, you're just going to use a brake adjusting spoon back here. There's a slot in the bottom and the back. So this is a little extra challenging because there's a 2-inch lowering block which lifts the axle up 2 inches higher, and that effectively blocks that slot, puts it right in front of the leaf spring plate that is gets bolted down with the U-bolts. So that makes it much more difficult to adjust these brakes. So I'm going to have to adjust them out by hand first, as far as I can, and still get the drum on. That's definitely not too tight. I'm just cranking this star so that the back side of the star is going up, which is what you would do with that brake spoon. And that causes that adjuster to expand out this way and spread the brake pads apart. I don't know how far I really need to go here. Pushing the brake pads apart. Still a very loose fit. Have to go until it gets tight, or kind of a snug fit. And I'm definitely there. I guess that's good enough for starters.
Unfortunately, after the first handbrake test, I ended up bringing the car back in and adjusting the shoes tighter via the access slot. It was tricky because the leaf spring plate is in the way, but I found it doable.
So this is the passenger side, so I'll go do the same thing on the driver's side. That little rubber cap off. Crack the bleeder open just a little bit and put this hose on it. So first I'm going to make sure the master cylinder is full, and then I'm going to start pumping the pedal, and we should see the air coming out here along with the fluid until there's no more air left in the line. And we might see the level come up in the catch container here in the bottle. Should come up a couple hundred cc's maybe. Okay, I'm going to start pumping the pedal slowly until I hear the liquid coming in. We should be able to hear it. Oh yeah, there it is. I can't tell if there's air coming out with it or not from here. I can't see, so I'm just going to pump a few times. That sounded like a steady stream, like there's no air gaps in it. Okay, one more pump is probably more than enough. Pull that off. Tighten that up. Put the cap on it. So it's got a nice firm pedal now. Probably feels better than it did before. Let's see how that handbrake feels. Oh, definitely tighter. I used to be able to pull it all the way out and it would barely catch. That's got some tension on it now. I'll have to test it on the hill out here and see. The driveway's pretty steep. It wouldn't hold before. If it holds now, then I know it's good compared to how it was. That's awesome.
The inspection preparation work and then some at the back of the car is done. I I even replaced the differential and shock absorbers, which will be seen in future videos.
If I pull it really hard, the handbrake is working, holding the car right now. Okay, so here it is. On the steepest part of the driveway, basically. The brake's holding. It wouldn't hold before. Letting it sit out here on the driveway, idling in neutral, you can hear it running with no wheel chocks, and the brake is holding. I even put it in reverse and powered it back a little bit with the brake on, pushed in the clutch, and the car stopped. So the parking brake is now working good, and I'm pretty sure this is going to pass inspection.
The rear brakes are ready for the road, and the handbrake is working good enough to pass inspection. I even changed the transmission oil. It's time to check out the front brakes, so that will be coming up in the next Man About Home. Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like and subscribe.